Hello, everyone, and welcome to this September LifeWave Connect product edition. We're so glad that you chose to join us and spend a few minutes with us today. And we have so many things to talk about. Some amazing updates around August was just a phenomenal month for LifeWave, just record breaking and just so much gratitude there. We'll talk a little bit about that. We've got a couple of updates. And then, of course, this is a LifeWave Connect product. So we plan to talk on X39 and Aeon today as well. So without further ado, let me go ahead and bring on our CEO, founder, and inventor of LifeWave Technology, David Schmidt. David, how are you?
Great, Jeff. Great to see you.
Yeah, you too. So David, let's talk about August for just a second. Just an incredible month at LifeWave.
In many ways. I think first, on the business side, it was the biggest month in the history of the company. And that doesn't happen without great leadership from our field and our incredible brand partners and customers. So everyone played a role in that. So, I think the first thing is, as you said, we want to extend, our thanks and appreciation. The other side, what was going through my mind is we had these terrible fires in Maui. And if people that are on with us today aren't aware of it, we quickly facilitated donations to the Red Cross and the Convoy of Hope to help provide people with medical relief, provide food and water to children, medical aid. So, our hearts really go out to the people that are there during this tragedy. And it really, to me, underscores that as we're more and more financially successful, not only can we make these donations, but we can put more money into our research and have things like humanitarian drone that can directly provide aid. So a lot of things to be certainly thankful and appreciative of. And our hearts certainly go out to people, not only in Hawaii, but people globally that are in suffering and need help.
Yeah, absolutely. Well said. And, another thing that happened this August, which, was at the beginning of the month, so it seems like ages ago, but we reopened the Canadian market as well, which had been closed for a little bit. So that was another piece of really exciting news to be able to get the products back in Canada and be able to serve our customers and brand partners there as well.
Yeah, it was very unusual what the Canadian government did. This was kind of a sweeping change across the country and across different industries. And when we hired an attorney in Canada to help us with this, they said, we're seeing this across the board. The Canadian government wants to slow down the economy. And we never really got a good reason for why that's the case, but they were blocking many companies from doing business in Canada, and they didn't really ever give us a reason as to why they wanted us to stop selling product. But of course, everything turned out great. We made the decision to financially support our brand partners in Canada and let their commissions keep going and keep them active. And so that turned out to be a great decision I would certainly make again. And the result was, because, we formed this partnership with our brand partners in Canada. They stuck with us, and we've come back stronger than before. So a lot of thanks and appreciation to our community in Canada.
Yeah, for sure. And you talked at the beginning of the call, just this incredible growth that we've been experiencing over the past, years, actually, even since the X39 launch, just a continued steady growth path. And with growth, obviously comes changes, and with growth comes, things that we have to make adjustments to and things. So I know that there were a few adjustments we made to our website and some other things. And I just wanted to see if you wanted to spend a minute to kind of address and talk through some of those things before we get started into the product.
Yeah, absolutely. So, we have made to the U.S. website. U.S. has grown incredibly fast. We have a number of leaders in the United States that are driving this growth. We're just doing a phenomenal job. And the U.S. is the fastest growing market and the largest market in the world for us. And we've crossed a threshold now where we've got on the radar with the FDA. So we've had a great relationship with the FDA since the beginning of the company. We got our first visit from the FDA in 2005. So we get regular inspections and have regular dialogue with them. So they basically approached us and said, look, there are changes coming with how we're dealing with stem cells. And the way we look at the FDA's position is the way we look at this is that when we think of stem cells, it's by injection, and that means stem cells are a drug. That's the way it's going to be regulated. So any company, even if you have a natural product and you're making a claim about stem cells, we're going to treat it like a drug claim. So I personally don't think that's fair. Stem cells are naturally occurring within the human body. They shouldn't be regulated that way. So the trend is something we should be concerned about and be aware of. But the bottom line is we need to comply with these changes and protect the company. So we're doing a few things. The first thing is, in an immediate response to this, to protect the company, we made changes to our claims on our US website. And we also moved the studies to the back office. So if you go to the back office, you can access the studies in the resource section. Mm-hmm. Now, the reason for this is that the way the FDA and the FTC looks at it is that if you've done a study, it forms a claim. And our patches do, of course, a lot more than what we say. So we had to make those studies private at this point. Now, Jeff, as you know, our staff has talked about this. And in only a month from now, when we get into convention, we're going to announce some very, very positive changes and upgrades to the website to address the interaction that we've had with FDA. So what I would say is, if you're going to the US website and the claims on our products now are very restricted, it's only going to be for the next, let's say, 30 days. Then we're going to make some announcements at convention, and then you'll see some things start to get back to normal. So if you can bear with us a month, I promise you there's great things ahead.
Yeah. Well, the incredible burden that comes with growth and exposure, and again, just so grateful for all the work that everyone's doing. It really is a tremendous sign of success and of all the lives that are being touched and changed through these products. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And we have a responsibility to protect our community, protect the company, and make sure, that we have a long-term business opportunity. We're coming up on 20 years in business, and that doesn't happen by accident. So, we're here for the long haul. The other thing I would say is to give people some satisfaction and confidence through this process is, if we look at, I'll use the essential oil companies in our industry. They're the two big companies are each over $1 billion. And we know that essential oils do a lot more than what those companies claim. There's a very, very long history on the safety and efficacy of essential oils. But the FDA regulates any product you inhale as a drug. So those companies have had to deal with this, that they can't really say very much about what their products do, yet, they've gotten to be over $1 billion, and certainly a lot more than that. So the message here is we're going to be fine. We're doing everything to remain compliant. People know, thank God, because of network marketing, that they're able to share the benefits, see the testimonials. I had a conversation with a surgeon yesterday who said, after 90 days of using your product, I'm a different person, for the better. So we're going to continue to grow and be successful, and it'll be great.
Yeah, perfect. As a reminder, even just a very proactive approach. So, just getting ahead of things there. So, well, let's, David, if you're okay with it, I'd love to jump into the content. And just as a reminder of, to everyone listening today, if you have questions, we love to answer those at the end. And so there's a Q&A box at the bottom. Go ahead and put them in there. And then, as we have time at the end, we can get to some of those. But today we're here to talk about X39 and Aeon.
Yeah. And Jeff, today, the direction we're going to go in with this is to look at the effects of stress on the body. So, of course, Aeon is a product that was specifically designed to reduce stress. There's actually a whole sub-story to Aeon, but it was specifically designed to reduce stress. And our clinical studies have shown it does exactly that. And what's so interesting, when we're measuring effects in the nervous system, in the autonomic nervous system, you have what's called a sympathetic and a parasympathetic drive. So sympathetic means people are in a mode of fight, and in parasympathetic, you're in a mode of relaxation. And what we found with the Aeon patch is that immediately after applying it, regardless whether or not someone was in a state of deep relaxation or someone was in a state of agitation, they moved into a place of balance. And that's incredibly important, because when people are too far to the left or right, it actually has an adverse effect on the immune system. My daughter was saying to me today, Dad, I went to a sauna, I did a detox, I felt great. I did it the other day, and I'm thinking about doing it 3 days in a row. What do you think? And I said, don't do it. Don't do it, because you can get too relaxed. It's like people like, I'll pick on Mariah Carey, who's, unbelievably gifted with her voice, but she sleeps 12, 13 hours a day. And the problem is that you depress your immune system at that point. So it's a unobvious stress. Maybe we're all familiar with the stress of working too many hours and those kind of conflicts. But actually relaxing too much can also depress the immune system. So we want to be in a state of balance, and Aeon does that. X39 also has enormous benefits to people that are under stress by helping to provide a healthy inflammatory response, by boosting antioxidant levels, and as well as some other things. So we're going to dig in now and look at this in more detail, because stress is, I would say, the single biggest thing that people need to do and get under control to have a healthy quality of life and preserve their youth and have a life of longevity. So let's get into this in more detail, and it will become a little bit more self-evident. So first of all, let's take this from the beginning and identify the problem and look at the effects of stress on the human body. And the main takeaway here is that stress affects every single part of the body. Stress can be physical, or it can be emotional. And this is kind of interesting to think about. There can be positive stress and negative stress. So I would say exercise is a positive stress. So we're putting stress on the muscle, on the heart, and we're using that as a way to strengthen the body. Fasting is a beneficial stress because there's a number of very favorable outcomes on the body, such as favorable changes in hormones, reduction in body fat, and so a detoxification. So we're going to be talking, of course, about negative stress. So let's say people like to work a little bit too much. I'm in that category. Or people have some type of, they have money problems. They're on the way to work. Their car broke down. They had a fight with their significant other. These types of emotional stresses lead to measurable physiological changes in the body and measurable biochemical changes in the body. So while these responses may start out in the brain and in the nervous system, it's ultimately going to have the adverse effects are going to show up in the gut, which affects your immune system. Of course, the adrenal glands can be stressed both short-term and chronically, and even the reproductive system. So as an example, in men, throughout our lifetime, oxidative stress can damage the Leydig cells in the testes, and this will reduce our levels of testosterone over time and also manhood. So this is a pretty good article, which gets into how stress has an adverse effect on every single system in the body. Cardiovascular system, which I'll be talking about in detail at convention a month from now. Cardiovascular system is particularly interesting. Homocysteine is an inflammatory marker, and it's very well known, especially in people of Chinese descent, that elevated levels of homocysteine leads to impairment of the cardiovascular system and increased risk of heart disease. We certainly know because of COVID that elevated levels of fibrinogen it can lead to myocarditis and can again increase risk of heart attack and stroke. So this obviously becomes a significant problem, right? So we want to do everything we can to mitigate stress. We're all going to have stress in our lives. The question is, how do we manage it? How do we deal with it? What kind of tools can we use? And this doesn't want to come up. Let's see. All right. Well, this was supposed to be a page. Let's see what happened to my computer here. This was supposed to be a page to show you symptoms. And it's, you know, it's kind of self-evident. Let's minimize that. Here we go. The symptoms of stress are self-evident, so we don't need to pay a lot of attention to it. But, you know, if you have on a regular basis, you're getting neck tension, you're getting headaches, any type of pain, chest pain, you're unusually fatigued. You know, we can all have days where, you know, we're off, maybe we didn't eat healthy, we didn't get enough sleep. So really what we want to do is look at patterns. Is this a regular condition? And we need to pay attention to this because these effects are cumulative. So if we have headaches or neck pain, neck tension as a regular occurrence in our lives, this should be a signal that we need to deal with this. We can't just dismiss it. So in line with this, there is a very definitive relationship between stress and chronic illness. Now, I'm going to tell you right away that there is one single thing that you can do, and it can start right now if you wanted to, that will mitigate the effects of stress on the body. And this is absolutely measurable. It may come as a surprise to some of you, but it is adopting an attitude of love towards others. The emotion of love is perhaps the greatest stress reliever that exists. In clinical studies, it's shown that when people are in a state of anger, they generate inflammation, oxidative stress, they damage the brain, the nervous system, the cells. When people are in a state of love and they increase production of the hormone oxytocin, it actually has the opposite effect. What it does is it regenerates tissues in the body. People that are in a chronic state of love, their muscles act and perform like those of someone in their 20s. So when we are in a state of gratitude, in a state of showing mercy and love towards others, we're doing something unbelievably great for ourselves and for others. So keep that in mind. But there is this relationship between stress and illness. So this is, again, we won't spend a lot of time going through this, but this is a good article to get an overview on it. But needless to say, chronic stress is life-threatening. It will catch up with you eventually. So, what can we do about this? To define this even a little bit more, there are any number of health problems that are directly related to stress. Some of them are obvious and some of them are not. One that I think is obvious is heart disease. And again, I'm going to be going through this in great detail at convention in exactly a month from today. But if you're someone that suffers with high blood pressure, you have blocked arteries, you're at risk for heart attack or stroke, and you want to know what natural solutions exist, I'm going to cover that in great detail. If you got high blood pressure, we're going to talk about those solutions. If you have arteries that have accumulated plaque, you've got reduced blood flow, reduced circulation, we're going to talk about all the natural solutions that exist to reverse that problem. But one of the things that you can do is to get your stress under control. When you're in a state of emotional stress, it can aggravate asthma and bronchitis. We're going to talk about this in just a moment. Probably mostly everybody is interested in reducing belly fat. Well, stress definitely adds to the problem of either being able to get rid of belly fat, or stress will add to your accumulation of fat around the waist. We're going to talk about that actually in a moment in pretty good detail. Okay, so again, we're not going to spend time going through all of this, but what's important to recognize is that chronic daily stress, if left uncontrolled, can lead to significant health problems, all the major health problems, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, cancer. Another thing that is worth bringing up here, which I think is self-evident, is the relationship between stress and aging. Now, I've covered this previously with LifeWave Connect at conferences and conventions, but since our goal as a company is to develop technology to stop and reverse the aging process, one of the things that we want to understand, of course, is what are the drivers of aging? And in this particular case, it comes down to oxidative and inflammatory stress. There have been mollusks found that were more than 500 years old, 502 years old, actually. And when they're opened, they're found that they're completely young, and these organisms have perfect control over the oxidative and inflammatory process. So in other words, these organisms, they produce energy and they live in a state where oxidation and inflammation do not damage healthy tissue. So they're able to perpetuate and stay young forever. So human beings can learn a lot from this. And in fact, we'll talk about that more in the future. We have our 20-year anniversary coming up. And to commemorate our 20-year anniversary, we're going to be talking about some things relative to age reversal that you will all love and appreciate, I am sure. Okay. So let's talk about this issue. Let's pick something that is important to all of us, and that is on controlling, preventing, reducing excess amounts of fat around the waist. So this is directly linked to cortisol. There's a number of things that we can do to reduce stress and reduce cortisol and get our belly fat under control. So if you've been on a diet, an exercise program, and you haven't been able to lose extra belly fat, there's a few things that we can look towards. What's interesting is that with too much exercise, cortisol levels go up and actually contribute to belly fat and or inability to mobilize belly fat. When we fast, especially intermittent fasting, we can change hormones, control stress in a way that contributes to reduction in cortisol and mobilization of fat for energy. So what this essentially means is that if we keep exercise brief and intense, we can minimize our cortisol and maximize our dopamine. Another thing about dopamine is really interesting is that I'm going to use Christian Bale and Ben Affleck as an example. As a superhero fan and looking at how actors transform themselves for movie roles, there was an interview with each of them individually. Of course, they both played Batman. And Christian Bale talked about how much he enjoyed the process of transforming his body into Batman. Whereas Ben Affleck said he didn't like exercising, he didn't like working out. It was a struggle getting into the gym, and he hated the process. So not surprisingly, after he stopped filming Batman, Ben Affleck gained a lot of body fat back. So what happens is that when we get into a mindset of enjoying exercise, our dopamine goes up, our cortisol goes down, and we actually get better results. And we could say this about anything. We'd say this about our relationships, around business, any type of activity. If we get into a mindset of enjoying what we're doing, we're going to increase our dopamine in a healthy way, minimize our cortisol, and ultimately get our hormones in check to where we can be burning fat for energy. That's, of course, part of the equation. But this is all just to say that when we're under a state of physical or emotional stress and cortisol goes up, our dopamine levels go down, and this is going to contribute to extra body fat. We can think of this as a survival mechanism. Historically, your body goes under stress, and we need to hold on to body fat as an emergency source of energy. So if we go back thousands of years ago, when there's food shortage, right? There's no supermarkets, no local markets we can go to, and a lot of dangerous things out in the world. Cortisol was a good thing in the sense that we could adapt, hold on to body fat, and use it as an emergency source of energy. But today, the dynamics have changed, and we don't have for most of us, we don't have the food shortages that we did, 100 or 1,000 years ago. And so living in a state of chronic stress is not a good thing. So just understand anyway that the daily stress that you deal with could be interfering with your ability to burn body fat. Okay, let's move on from that. All right, I've spent a lot of time talking about the problem with stress. Now the question is, what are we going to do about it? Well, here's the good news. We always want to have good news, and we always want to have solutions. So the first thing is to form a foundation. Make sure that you're getting enough sleep, you're drinking enough water, you have a healthy diet, you get regular exercise. And the type of exercise that you do is important. Exercise is a very powerful stress reliever, and also will help you live longer for a whole variety of reasons. So you want to have a foundation. Speak with your healthcare practitioner if you need guidance in how to do all those things. Beyond that, though, there are very simple natural interventions that can get your stress under control today. The first one that I want to deal with, because it's so common, at least 60% of the population have a magnesium deficiency. And here's a study which is showing the relationship between magnesium deficiency and stress. It's an obvious one, but I still want to cover it. Now, there are different forms of magnesium. Magnesium oxide is very common. I don't recommend it. My preference would be magnesium citrate, magnesium glycinate, magnesium taurate. These are all bioavailable forms of magnesium. Here in the United States, they're very easy to get. Other countries or other regions of the world, especially Europe, some of these forms of magnesium are very difficult to get. Now, for stress, the one specific form of magnesium you can use is magnesium threonate. Now, magnesium threonate crosses the blood-brain barrier and induces an immediate sense of relaxation. So taking, let's say, 200 milligrams at bedtime is going to improve the quality of your sleep. You could take 100 milligrams during the day and get into a state of relaxation. Now, other forms of magnesium, such as magnesium glycinate, which is excellent, magnesium taurate, which is excellent, will also help to manage stress. So the important thing is, talk to your doctor about getting 100 to 400 milligrams of magnesium daily. Even if you have a good diet, you're probably going to want to consider supplementing with magnesium. And the more stress you're under, by the way, the more your magnesium levels are depleted. But this is a go-to that should be part of any program for everyone of managing stress. Now, another one that is often overlooked is taurine. Now, in our research, we spend a considerable amount of time investigating taurine. Taurine is interesting as an amino acid because it doesn't directly convert over into a protein, and it also functions like an antioxidant. For the men that we have on the call today, if you're under the age of 40, take taurine daily. And I'm going to tell you why. In animal studies, it's been found that when animals are given taurine, the male animals, their testicles do not experience any damage during the course of their life. And as the animals age, their testosterone levels never deplete. So, in other words, it seems as if human males supplement with taurine their entire life, they never have a decline in testosterone throughout their entire life. I would like to have known this. As a guy in his 60s, I would love to have known this before I was 40. There's other benefits to taurine. It has benefits on the brain, on the heart, on the energy system, as well as other things. Taurine is unbelievable at reducing blood pressure. But in this particular case, as we're talking about this, taurine has a relaxation effect on the brain and the nervous system and has even been used clinically to treat anxiety and depression. So talk to your doctor about starting at 1 gram of taurine. You could take it at bedtime to improve the quality of your sleep, or take it during the day. And studies seem to show that there's really not a toxic effect of taurine. You could take 2, 3, 4 grams of taurine. Combining it with magnesium is even better. So in other words, I'd say talk to your doctor about starting with a gram of taurine daily. Look at taking it during the day, at bedtime, and then adjust the amount to what you see fit. And you can increase the amount without any type of adverse effects. And in fact, taurine may be one of the most powerful anti-aging nutrients that's ever been discovered, and that doesn't get enough recognition in that regard. Okay. Now, another one I want to talk about today on stress reduction is theanine. Now, hopefully you enjoy green tea. One of the things that I love about going into Asia, especially Japan, is the green tea. It's phenomenal. And green tea, of course, has a number of antioxidants, and it has caffeine, but because it contains theanine, it induces a state of relaxation. Now, theanine, again, like taurine, is extraordinarily interesting because it doesn't directly convert over into a protein, and it has a number of beneficial effects on the body. A dose of taurine that would be clinically relevant would be about 200 milligrams or so. So you could take 200 milligrams of taurine in the evening, and it will help you to relax and improve the quality of sleep. Now, I found a patent once where theanine was part of a complex at improving erectile function. This is not really obvious or self-evident, probably why this person got a patent on this formula. So, but in any case, because theanine does cause relaxation, there seems to be evidence that in men, it may improve testosterone, improve nitric oxide, improve blood flow to the genitals, and improve erectile function. Now, there's a lot more to this, and at convention, I'm actually going to be addressing this. But for men that have impaired erectile function or erectile dysfunction, this is an early warning sign of heart disease. And you should be concerned about, not so much your sexual performance, but what does this mean to your cardiovascular system and your cardiovascular health? So this is all to say that first, if you're a man that has erectile dysfunction or you're not pleased with your sexual performance, what you really want to do is improve the health of your heart first. 60% or 70% of the time, that's going to correct things. It's not going to address the emotional reasons behind erectile dysfunction, but it'll address the most common form of erectile dysfunction. I'll get into that in detail at convention. But for right now, know that theanine has an interesting role here. And since we're talking about stress, having green tea during the day can help you cope with stress, give you energy, get you antioxidants, or taking a theanine supplement, especially in the evening, can help calm your nervous system down, improve your quality of sleep, improve your hormones, and help you cope with stress the next day. There's other things here too that I didn't get into and list, such as taking a warm bath in Epsom salts. It's obviously a little time consuming, and with the busy lifestyles that we lead, most of us would love to be able to take a warm bath every night with some salts or essential oils, but it's not practical. So, we're covering things that are simple, easy, and inexpensive to do. All right. Now, before we jump to some questions, I wanted to get into two other things which are relevant for our community, and that has to do with glutathione and copper peptide. Now, we talk a lot about glutathione as the body's master antioxidant. Glutathione has a whole host of benefits. There's new research that has shown that glutathione protects the stem cell function in the body. Of course, it manages stress, manages inflammation, improves immune function. And not surprisingly, it helps us cope with stress. So if you don't have a good diet, or you have some holes in your diet, definitely recommend that you look at taking a supplement of something like N-acetylcysteine. Use our glutathione patch to support healthy glutathione levels, and that will help your body deal with the damaging effects of stress. There's actually a whole host of, we could have an entire webinar about just glutathione and its ability to help manage stress in the body. It's that important. And then finally, I think I saved the best for last, copper peptide. So as you all know, I'm a huge fan of copper peptide, and a big thanks to Dr. Lauren Picard, who discovered copper peptide. And not surprisingly, every time you turn around and look, it seems like copper peptide is good for everything. So not surprising here that copper peptide can be used to prevent oxidative stress and the degenerative conditions of aging. So if we go back and we look at where we started in this discussion, chronic stress leads to accelerated aging. Management of stress is one of the most important things that we can do to preserve our youth and have a healthy and long life. Copper peptide has been shown to be absolutely critical and important in being able to regulate stress. So this is a very good article. I want to take your questions since this is running a little bit late, but suffice it to say that this is a great article on the use of copper peptide in managing stress. So, Jeff, there's a lot of information there, but the bottom line is that we all deal with stress, and there are so many beneficial ways of dealing with it. Having a healthy lifestyle, getting proper rest, drinking lots of water, exercising, eating healthy, using our wellness products like X39 and Aeon and glutathione, taking supplements like magnesium, like theanine, like taurine, using these supplements to help manage our stress and inflammation. And it doesn't have to be the massive problem that it is for some people. It's manageable.
Well, that's amazing. And I mean, how relevant, who do we know who doesn't deal with, to some extent, a level of stress? So amazing information and certainly relevant today. Well, we do have plenty of questions that have come in. So we'll start out with a few that kind of work backwards a little bit here. Is one individual said, is there a particular copper supplement you can take to help to elevate those peptides? And would you have a recommendation on what copper supplement or how much someone should take?
Yeah, so this is interesting because depending on what studies you look at from what decade, the recommendation on copper changes pretty dramatically. Right now, the FDA recommends 900 micrograms of copper daily, less than 1 milligram. I find that to be woefully misleading. I don't know how else to say it because the clinical data on it just doesn't line up. Now, the RDA, the recommended daily allowance, is very different than how much copper do you need for optimum health. And copper is also given a little bit of a bad rap in the sense that there's information out that says, well, you can take too much copper and it's toxic. Well, there's clinical studies that show you could take 30 milligrams to 50 milligrams of copper, and 2 hours later, the body's natural detoxification systems have normalized the levels of copper. So 2.5 milligrams of copper glycinate is very common. I like amino acid chelates. They're bioavailable, non-toxic. So copper glycinate would be what I'd recommend. Getting some chocolate in the diet, I think, is pretty good for those people that love liver. It's very, very rich in copper. But yeah, I would say 2.5 milligrams of copper daily is awfully good.
All I heard was chocolate, that we could eat chocolate to get it.
Chocolate's a good one. Dark chocolate.
Dark chocolate.
Dark chocolate of 70% cacao and above. And it's also, by the way, dark chocolate at 72% and above has been shown to improve the stem cell activity in the body. So lots of benefits to chocolate.
Wow. Okay. You talked a little bit about, quite a bit about taurine. And so there were a couple of questions surrounding taurine. So I'll take them kind of one by one. But should women supplement with taurine as well, or only men? You talked a lot about the benefits to men.
Yeah. So truth be told, I do have some self-interests in looking at protecting my testosterone levels as I age. So I do tend to look at that. But taurine, so we're very, very blessed to work with Melinda and Caitlin Connor. So Caitlin is a PhD. She did research at Oxford, incredibly brilliant young woman. We've been very, very blessed to have her as a speaker at our conventions in the past. And so we did a research study together. And the conclusion that she came to is that taurine is something that everyone should be taking, men and women. And the reason is we believe, based on the research that we collected, that it's going to turn out that there is a strong correlation between lifespan and taurine levels. Taurine declines with age. It's found in very high concentrations in the brain, the heart, in the genitals. It functions as an antioxidant. I think we're going to find that taurine supplementation reduces the risks of Alzheimer's, ALS, dementia. It improves athletic performance, reduces cardiovascular disease. It is a miracle supplement for sure. So I think that my opinion as a researcher is that everyone should be taking taurine, and at least a gram a day.
Very good. And then just staying on the topic of taurine, you had talked a little bit about, supplementing prior to the age of 40, but can you go into a little bit more detail on why that number, or why that age is so important, and what happens after age 40?
Oh, that's interesting. So this specifically was referring to men. So the study that I was citing was we have to look at, and there is debate about this, but one of the models for why testosterone levels in men drop, it's complicated, but let's say one of the models is that the Leydig cells in the testes that produce testosterone, they undergo oxidative stress with age. And so it's, in other words, if you started out with 100 units of Leydig cells, and over time that got depleted to 90 units, 80 units, 70 units, the amount of testosterone that you could make decreases. So that's one of the models. So taurine, it acts like an antioxidant, and it accumulates in the testicles. So what's been found is that taurine can block oxidative stress in the testes. So in the animal studies, it was found that the effect was so powerful that as in the mice and rat studies that were done, that those animals never experienced a decline in their testosterone levels. Now, animal studies don't always apply to human beings, but in this case, I would say there's some pretty good justification that would in fact be the case. So if I would say for a man under the age of 40, before that oxidative stress takes place, supplement with taurine, and you're going to get a whole host of benefits from that your entire life. It'll be good for your brain, your heart, and also your sexual performance. But a big one is protecting cardiovascular health.
Very good. Very good. There's a question around, is there any connection you see in terms of stress as it relates to hair loss in the studies that you read?
Yeah, for sure. let's see, what can I say that won't get me in trouble? So talking about hair growth is a medical claim. So I want to be really careful about how to address this. And I have spoken with, some doctors about this subject. I think what I would say is for a man or woman that is interested in regrowing their hair naturally, first they should speak with their doctor about it, but consistently the subject that comes up is microneedling. That if you're microneedling, that will improve the efficacy of any natural treatment. So this is kind of easy to understand because on the one hand, what you're doing is you're opening up the pores, but what you're also doing is you're creating stress, and that stress actually attracts stem cells. So if we were going to do a clinical study on this, what I would do is I would say, okay, I'd want to look at a product to improve the number of circulating stem cells in the body, mobilize stem cells, and get them to attract to a site by using something like microneedling. Mm-hmm. So my suspicion is that would be a very, very good approach for hair growth.
Perfect.
Yeah, but there's no question there's a relationship between stress and hair loss. Absolutely.
So just talking a little bit about, you mentioned Aeon at the beginning, but there's a couple questions around when is the best time to use it? Where are the best places to use it? Is there any sort of particular time frame in which they should use and then stop using? Can you talk to any of that?
Yeah. So Aeon is one of those products you can use during the day or at night.
Okay. And then it says, one of the other questions is it okay if we place X39 on other acupuncture points than the 2 points that we recommend in the instructions for use?
Yeah. So when we do our studies and when we advertise the instructions, it has to match up with the studies. So in other words, when people see the points that we recommend, it's because that's the points that were used in studies. So we have a legal obligation. But as a practical matter, what I do with the Aeon patch is I say, okay, let me take my index finger here and, that point over there is a little tense. So I'll put the Aeon patch there. Or sometimes I might just put it on my temple. So I would say, if people wanted to use the patch that way, you don't have to know acupuncture. Just look for a point of tension on your body, a point that's sore, and apply the product there, and you'll be happy with the result.
Very good. And now, again, just talking about, with the popularity of ice baths and saunas and things, the question is coming up is what's the effect of patches, well in a hot, does that affect the patch? If they're in a hot sauna, if they're in an ice bath, should they be wearing them or should they take them off for those situations?
Yeah. So I wouldn't worry about an ice bath. And most people aren't going to stay in an ice bath that long anyway, 20 minutes at most, sometimes just 3 minutes. So I wouldn't worry about an ice bath at all. A sauna is a different story. So we know that elevated temperatures will degrade the patch. So I would say if you're going to go into a sauna for any length of time, you might want to remove the patch. There's no harm in leaving it on. It's just that you may degrade the patch more quickly with the elevated temperatures. So, so it's one of those, it depends a little bit.
Okay, very good. And then I heard you, and maybe this one's a little selfish, but I heard you mention a couple of times around convention and what people can look forward to. And we're actually coming right up on, for anyone who's, a member of LifeWave, we're coming up on the deadline for in-person registrations on Friday. So if someone were to come to convention or want to come to convention, what are some things they might expect? You've alluded to some great things, but what kind of experience would you think that they might have?
Well, so first of all, this is going to be the biggest live event that we've ever had. Our events team, as you know, Jeff, has done an amazing job. Everyone on our staff has done an amazing job at prepping for this. Planning for an event this size takes a year. So there's that level of preparation that goes into it. And from my perspective, I want to provide our community with a number of surprises. And the experience with LifeWave is we want people to walk away saying, oh, wow, I got so much more than I expected. So that puts a lot of burden on us. And, last year, for those people that were there, we unveiled our humanitarian drone. And that was such a huge success that I spent months thinking about, okay, what can we do for this convention that will take people by surprise, but, have some kind of relevance to our community. And we have more than one surprise that's in store. And we're going to be unveiling technology that our community hasn't seen before. And that technology is going to have a significant impact on the way that our brand partners build their business in the coming years and beyond, along with some other things. So I would say one way to think about convention is that we're kicking off our 20 years in business at this event. So it will be extraordinarily memorable, and there'll be a lot of surprises, a lot of reasons to celebrate.
Well, I'm excited. Last year was my first LifeWave convention, and I've worked in this industry for a long time, and it really was something very special. There's just something so incredible about getting together and spending time together, and that association. Well, David, we have just 1 or 2 more minutes here, and I know we've talked about our gratitude for the community. We've addressed a few things, and obviously amazing talk on stress here. But as we get ready to kind of close things out here, is there anything else that you'd like to share with our community, with those listening? Any other words of wisdom or advice?
Yeah, I think what I want to say is we just had a leadership event in Italy with the top elite level leaders in the world. And I think what I'd share with our brand partners is how lucky we are to have the leaders that we do around the world. After spending a number of days with them, of course, these are people that I've known for several years anyway, but after spending time with them in August, these are people that deeply care about what it is that they're doing. This is so much more than just a business. It's about touching people's lives, improving the quality of life, spreading the message that there's hope, and giving hope to others. And so we have so much to be thankful for the leadership in the company. These are wonderful people that just want to make a difference in the world. So I think I would say that the reason why we're having the success we are is because we have these great leaders that care so very much for their teams and for what it is that they're doing.
Wow. Incredibly said. Incredibly said. Well, we are so grateful for you, David, and for the time that you shared with us and for the knowledge and information. We are so grateful for all of you who have tuned in and who have listened to the webinar today and spent some time with us. And with that, we'll go ahead and close this out, and we will see you all next month.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jeff.
Bye.
Thanks, everyone.